Do you like extended cuts, director's cuts, producer's cuts, alternate cuts of films?
I do.
Nice. What are some examples of your favorite extended cuts?
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought it up because I happen to know a thing or two about you, and I know that you overwhelmingly don't. Not to take the air out of the room here. Not to steal your thunder, but I really do. I'm really into tedious movies.
Like Deer Hunter.
That's not one of my favorites, but I'll agree it's tedious. But I do really like Michael Cimino more than Deer Hunter. I would say big fan of Heaven's Gate.
Of course you are.
The director's cut.
Is that 5 hours? 5 hours long?
5 hours.
Oh,
it's
nice.
5 hours. Yeah.
Brevity's the soul of wit, as they say.
That was too long when you said that. That could have been shorter.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm also a really big fan of Until the End of the World. It's a Wim Wenders picture.
Yeah, don't know.
Until very recently, the director's cut wasn't available. But that is going on 5 hours. That's 4 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. I love that movie.
No. Stay to 2 hours, and if you have to go past 2 hours, then you have to be Boogie Nights or justify it in some other way.
Okay, well, you tell me, what's your take on this and why?
I think one of the only alternate directors, whatever cuts that I enjoy is Blade Runner. I feel like that's one of the few where the theatrical cut actually feels to me much lesser.
The studio really kind of mucked that up. I think people who prefer the studio cut are probably in the minority of that film.
Yeah. I won't say that I disdain extended cuts altogether. I do think I generally prefer the theatrical cuts, but you see the extended cuts and you sort of, I don't know, get more into the headspace of the people who are making these films. So I'll watch them once or twice, but beyond that, I usually just don't really care for. Like Apocalypse Now, any of the Lethal Weapon extended cuts, the Star Wars special editions, the one that I get the biggest flack for is that I don't like the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings. I'm like one of the only people on the planet, apparently, that just thinks the theatricals are good as they are. Two Towers, like I actually wish the theatrical cut of Two Towers was shorter than it was. I don't need an extended cut of that one.
Why is that? I mean, what do you have to do? Why is it so urgent to get this movie over anyway?
I don't know. I feel like it always screws with the pacing every time I see a director's cut of a film. And I'll say this, Apocalypse Now is one of my favorite films. It's in my top 10 list, and I can't stand Apocalypse Redux. Every time a scene comes up, same with Lord of the Rings, every time a scene comes up that wasn't in the theatrical cut, I'm always like, yep, I know exactly why they cut that, why it ruined the pacing. Usually the performances in those scenes are subpar, I rarely look at an extended cut scene and think, oh yeah, the performances in this, the music that the composer had to slap on after the fact, makes this film a much better experience. Now, I think less is more, brevity's the soul of wit, you have to kill your darlings.
You said that quicker this time, actually.
I know, I took your advice.
Yeah, and it worked. It worked.
You're welcome.
I think in favor of your argument, it worked this time. But I still like extended cuts. The only time I don't really like them is with comedies.
Yeah.
That's when it really bugs me.
Oh, Superbad in particular is one. And I actually, the first copy of this I bought, I can't remember if it was DVD or Blu-ray. You couldn't watch the theatrical cut on it. They only included the unrated cut. Why do I want these shitty jokes that the editor had the good sense to cut out before it went to theaters? I don't.
You don't is the answer to that question. Right. If we can do more of this, if we can tee up questions and answer them ourselves, I think that's a real service to the audience.
Exactly.
That's a little feather in our caps.
All right. We'll keep that in there for future episodes.
This sounds good. Thanks for asking, by the way. Hey, wow. Welcome back. Welcome to The Long Road Home Alone. I'm Joey Z. I'm sitting here with Jimmy. Jimmy, good to see you, my friend.
Very happy to be here.
I'm glad that you're happy to be here. And I'll tell you something. I'm happy to be here too.
Nice.
It's a good way to be.
Good for you.
Before we get started today, I wanted to give you something. I found this, and it's a sticker.
Skillet. Did you get this from a concert you went to recently?
I didn't get it from a concert. I got it at a record store.
Oh, wow.
But we've talked about Skillet before. I think we had...
I remember these guys. This is a bonding experience for us. There aren't many things that link us together, but Skillet is one of those things.
I don't know if I would go that far, but we have both seen Skillet in concert at separate music festivals. You saw them at a Christian music festival. I saw them at a non-Christian, at a secular music festival.
Did they play like more vulgar versions of their Christian songs at your concert?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a memorable experience for me. I just know that I saw them. But
well,
anyway,
thank you for that sticker.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what are we talking about today anyway?
I think we're going into some uncharted territory for us on the show. We're going to be talking about some deleted scenes. And I don't know, you actually haven't seen most of the deleted scenes until recently, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's always new territory to touch on. There's always another well to dig here.
Yeah, with these deleted scenes, I think they were on the DVD for Home Alone. You can look them up in the special features. I don't know. How do you feel about deleted scenes in general? How does that work in your head canon? Do you feel like when you see a deleted scene, you're like, okay, that's sort of where the writer was at when they put the writer and director were at when they put this together? Do you feel like it actually, I don't know, counts towards who these characters are,
towards the body work? Is it canon?
Yeah.
Right?
Do you consider it canon? Yeah. And it's a little more difficult with Home Alone too, because a lot of the deleted scenes are actually alternate takes of scenes. That
right.
Are
they
in
couldn't
the
have
film.
both existed. Right.
Yeah.
We're seeing something that inherently can't be part of the film because they chose something else.
Yeah. Otherwise, the whole thing would go time cop.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, well, maybe that's another conversation.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we're really from the generation that first got access to bonus features in general. Mm-hmm. So I would say on the long arc of movie viewer history, generationally, it is relatively recent that this is even part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I mean that's not just cutscenes, right? Or deleted scenes, but that's other bonus materials. That's
audio
director commentaries, right?
Audio commentary, behind the scenes,
right? BTS
all this kind of stuff. Well, even on, if you go online, you can find videos of people who lived in the neighborhood while Home Alone was being filmed and watch their footage of the neighborhood.
That's right. And that would have been sort of a guerrilla behind the scenes for them and people they know, but we're also in an era where you can now just access that on YouTube or somewhere on the internet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's an interesting question because we got access to that relatively early. We're young when DVDs are coming out, but we're also from an era before that where you really didn't have that supplemental material.
Yeah, VHS tapes didn't come with special features.
No,
you didn't get to learn
very
about.
rarely. I mean, I had the last release of the Star Wars trilogy before the re-releases.
Yeah.
And
with that Leonard Maltin interview.
Maltin just like falling over to just
I love that interview. George Lucas, you're the master of the universe who's created Star Wars. Just like,
and George is like, well, yes, that's true, I suppose.
Leonard Maltin, dial it back, man. Okay, he's just a director.
All right, buddy. Okay. No, those really bothered me because every time I wanted to watch Star Wars, those things they were like 20 minutes long before each one of those movies.
Yeah.
And they were at the beginning.
And you couldn't just skip. You had to skip. You had to fast forward.
Yep. And my dad was always going, by the way, he's like, don't fast forward. It's going to mess up the VCR.
I mean, it does like knock off pieces of the plastic right on the tape.
He wasn't wrong, especially when you're like fast forward play, All
right. Well, which deleted scenes are we going to talk about first?
We'll find out right after it's not a break yet. No.
Do you want me to answer my own question?
Yeah,
again?
we did. We had talked about
Well, let's talk about Paris first. Okay. So out of all the deleted scenes, I feel like most of the stuff gets cut from Paris. And actually, if you listen to the audio commentary on Home Alone, the reason for that is that they included most of these scenes that were in Paris in the original cut. They showed it to test audiences, and test audiences just didn't want that. They always wanted to be back with Kevin. They always wanted to see what Kevin was up to while he was home alone, and nobody really cared about what the other McAllisters were doing in Paris. And so a lot of the stuff with Peter and the rest of the family kind of got cut down to just one scene, essentially. You get the one scene at the airport where they say goodbye to Kate, and then you get one other scene in the apartment.
The Paris scene, the big one that's cut, right, is when the McAllisters first arrive in Paris, and then we see the Paris McAllisters.
The Paris / New York
McAllisters.
Yeah.
So that is... It's a funny scene. It's also interesting because we actually meet these characters in that scene in a way that we never otherwise do.
Yes.
Right? They're just, it is their scene. They all speak. Well, Stefan doesn't say anything, I don't think, but I think maybe the girls say something.
Yeah. Well, the parents are both like, oh, here they come. They're so happy to see us.
Right.
Yeah. And then they spread apart this dot matrix sign that they printed out at their house that says
welcome to Paris or something.
Joyeux Noel, welcome to Paris.
Right.
Yeah. And essentially the McAllisters just run through the sliding doors and run straight through the sign.
Like it's a finish line.
Yeah. Like they do
it's
not
a ribbon at a finish line.
Yeah. It totally makes sense that it got cut because that just seems so preposterous to me. On top of that, Heather and Rod are both with this group. Their parents are the ones holding the signs, and they also just run straight through it without saying a thing to any of their like immediate family members.
Right. It is a funny scene, but I agree. It does make sense for it to not have been included. And I think maybe more than any other reason, there really is no other scene with the Paris / New York McAllisters.
Yeah.
You see them way in the back of a shot, in a wide shot, in the Paris apartment. But it's weird, I think, to like rest with this family for this long moment and show them close up, give them speaking lines, and then never see them again. So I think like you were saying, from a pacing perspective, it probably made sense to eliminate that and just say, these people are really sort of non-characters.
Yeah. Rob, in the theatrical cut, Rob doesn't get a single line. It's only Georgette, and it's when Frank, attention,
Frank, those are for later.
Frank. That scene with the sign was really like all that the Paris McAllisters get. And
as a matter of fact, I may have mentioned this before, but for a long time, I wasn't paying that close of attention in that scene. For a long time, I thought that was Heather saying that to Frank.
Yeah.
Simply because you're never introduced to Georgette.
Nope.
She's never even acknowledged.
No. There's these two strangers that are just hanging out in this apartment, and you assume that it's the Paris
with your
McAllister.
eagle eye. Also, the vast majority of times I've watched Home Alone have been on video home system. Which is, it's hard to see what's going on in the background there.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I didn't even know that was Georgette.
One thing I want to point out at the airport scene, the scene with the sign, actually a sliver of it made it into the theatrical cut. You get a shot where Kate and the rest of the family are running towards the terminal. They do a shot of Kate from behind. She looks around to make sure the rest of her family's there. And you can see through the sliding doors, the Paris McAllisters are there holding the sign.
Got it. So it's the reverse shot. They have the continuity there. So it's that same scene.
Yeah, that one's still in there.
Well, viewers at home, eagle eye that one.
Check it out.
Right.
The other big scene in Paris is I think in the deleted scenes, it's called Sleepless in Paris. And it's basically like the other McAllisters, apart from Buzz, he's sleeping just fine.
Yeah.
The other McAllisters are
sleeping
just
like a baby, not a care in the world.
Yeah. The other McAllisters are just awake, restless, and tormented about their broken family. Peter is out in the living room or whatever, awake still. He's probably got jet lag too, a little bit maybe. And Linny comes out and talks to him about what the meaning of Christmas is, and they sort of, I don't know, come to the conclusion that the meaning of Christmas is being with your immediate family.
His family.
Yeah.
Wow, really, you guys really had to crack that nut.
Yeah.
You didn't know?
Well, there's a reason it was cut.
Yeah. So I'm going to consider these two different scenes. I mean, they are two different scenes, even if they were butted up against each other in, I don't know. But the Sleepless in Paris sequence, the one that's just sort of this tracking shot over their heads where they're all lying awake at night. Yeah. You can tell how it would work with a bed of music, right? It's like an MOS shot. Well, Buzz is snoring, but it could be an MOS shot with bed of music. And I'm not including the Peter and Linny conversation in this, but that is the one. We haven't even touched on all these deleted scenes, but I'm just going to say that is the one deleted scene of all of them that I think could have strengthened the final cut. I think it pairs really nicely with Kevin laying alone in bed watching Johnny Carson and then being apologetic and sort of looking around and kissing his family goodnight. I think the pairing there is nice, and I think it's a nice human moment, because what we lose when we don't see like the extended stuff in Paris with the family, I think what we lose to a great extent is the fact that this is all mutual. That even though all of his siblings and his whole family were kind of jerks to Kevin at the beginning, they're feeling bad. Yeah. They're missing Kevin. They're worrying about their brother. They're maybe feeling remorseful.
I feel like Megan and Linny in particular are feeling pretty guilty about how they treated Kevin before they left. And so you really don't get that. The only time you really feel that in the theatrical cut is that final moment when they're all reunited. And
that doesn't strengthen any one character, right? It's definitely that emotional. The family's all back together. They all seem happy to be, but I do think it robs those tertiary characters of some of their depth, because we don't really know what they're doing. So I did like that scene.
Where's Mom?
Mom? I think she ran off with some Parisian playboy.
Dad.
No, she just got on a plane to Scranton to go back and get Kevin.
Oh. She won't be here for Christmas. Kevin won't be here for Christmas. It won't even be like Christmas.
So another bulk of the other segments in the deleted scenes have to do with Kevin and the Wet Bandits. Kind of just like oddball scenes that don't really add all that much, but just, a little bit of flavor to both the Wet Bandits and Kevin. One in particular that has to do with Kevin that I thought was, relevant to topics we've talked about before, is there's this scene where Kevin is brushing his teeth with his toothbrush that he got from the that he stole from the pharmacy. He finishes brushing his teeth and then he says, "Oh my gosh, I just brushed my teeth with stolen goods. I need to wipe off the fingerprints to remove the evidence," or whatever. And I feel like this directly confirms your theory that Kevin sends the cops to the Murphys at the end of the movie because he believes that if the cops come to the McAllister's house, they're going to find that stolen toothbrush, and Kevin's going to be arrested too.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yes. Just more evidence for Kevin's perception that he is on the lam, that he's on the run from the law.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Why do you think they cut that?
Probably didn't need it.
Yeah. That's something, well, you were talking about last segment about how the sequence in Paris with the McAllisters is sort of missing John Williams' bed of score. That's something I have a hard time taking into account when I watch deleted scenes, because it really is just the raw audio from the movie. They didn't mix it really. I mean, they, make it so you can hear it, but you even hear cues from the director, in these deleted scenes. And were those scenes given the John Williams treatment, maybe they would have felt like they belonged a little more so than they do when they're left out.
Right.
Same with, even the sound design. The one scene in particular that I'm thinking of is when it's one of the Wet Bandit scenes that's cut. They shot 2 alternate cuts of the Wet Bandits after Kevin hides out at the church.
Right.
Kevin's run back home and the Wet Bandits are still circling around, and Harry is really unsettled at the way that Kevin looked at him. And
which we get that much in the final cut.
Yes.
You go, I don't like the way that kid looked at me, but it's a brief back and forth.
Yeah, this scene that takes place after the church is Harry dwelling on that feeling of like, oh, we got to find out where that kid lives. I don't like, he's going to ruin this thing for us. And it's basically Marv just trying to calm Harry down and say like, just chill out, man. It's okay. And they both, as a means of trying to calm Harry down, they both break into song. And
Harry and Marv are coming to town.
Harry and Marv are coming to town. Some like parody version of Santa Claus coming to town where they talk about breaking into houses or something. Oh, it's so terrible. I hate it.
You better. What is it? You better.
I didn't memorize the lyrics. If your doors are open, we're coming inside.
Yeah, something. You better not hide.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it for the characters, but I think it would be hard to fit into the pacing of the film naturally. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a real great example of one that just is gonna throw the pretty brisk pacing of this picture off. I actually do like it for the characters. They're goofy characters, and I think it's funny, but you've got to see it all the way through, and it's just too long. And it would be a little clunky.
Well, and I think that sequence where Kevin is running away from the church and he says, when those guys come back, I'll be ready. So this sequence of them singing and Harry trying to calm down would have taken place between that and the house party. And I feel like you want Kevin saying, when those guys come back, I'll be ready, cut to the house party. And then the Wet Bandits show up right after that. Like, oh, that's what he meant. Like, I'll be ready. He's going to make the house look like there are a bunch of people here.
Yeah.
And I feel like you maybe wouldn't have gotten quite that direct connection. Maybe that joke wouldn't have paid off quite as well if you have this character building scene between the Wet Bandits.
Right.
The alternate cut of that is Marv serving Harry a decaf cappuccino in their truck.
Right.
Which I'm assuming
from a machine you don't see, but it's in like this little fine china.
I'm assuming that this thing would have needed electricity, but he somehow made it in the van while they're driving somewhere. I guess you got those cigarette lighters. Yeah.
Here's your voltage adapter.
Yeah. So that cappuccino machine would have been from the Murphy's house, I think.
Have they already been to the Murphy's house this scene takes place?
So they're pulling out of the Murphy's driveway when they almost hit Kevin, and then they follow him to the church.
Right. Is that the same one where Harry's talking about, he's like, I hate Christmas?
No.
He's like, people become too cynical.
No. So that sequence that's an alternate cut of when Harry drives up and he says that's the silver tuna.
Right.
Because the scene opens with him saying 3 houses or 5 houses or whatever with nobody home, and they all told me from their own mouths. He says that same line in this deleted scene, so I think this was an alternate cut. And yeah, it's basically like Harry lamenting the fact that all of these families aren't at home for Christmas. And
he says it's the ongoing moral decay of contemporary society.
Yes. No, like the point of that joke was like these guys like passing judgment on the moral decay of society, and then immediately
it's funny, it's a little too subtle. It doesn't really fit the comedy.
Yeah.
The brand of comedy that the film establishes.
Yeah, well, because Marv immediately after that realization that Harry has says, so what house you wanna break into first?
Right.
So yeah, there's that deleted scene. And then I feel like the other big one is Kevin goes grocery shopping. And there's this sequence where a woman helps him figure out what fabric softener is. The line is so clunky. He's like, I think the idea is that Kevin took the line from like an ad he saw on TV.
Right.
What does he say? He's like, what is it that makes
it all fluffy and soft?
Fluffy,
or something?
Soft, and smell like a springtime field or some like that. No, I'm glad they cut that one. I feel bad for the actress that's in the scene because I feel like that was she did great in the sequence, and the point of the sequence is also that he's trying to convince her that he's just pushing the cart for his mom. And then he asks this technical question about like some kind of cleaning product. And he's like, and then at the end of her explanation, it's fabric softener. He's like, okay, good. My mom wanted to know. Yeah. And then he goes off and she's like, oh, that was weird.
I want to point out in this scene that we know that he's shopping for milk, eggs, and fabric softener, but it just reestablishes the milk. He's getting the milk. He's buying milk. I feel like this movie is like an ad for the Dairy Farmers Council.
Yeah.
There's so much milk in this movie.
I don't need it. I don't need that much milk.
We know when you're out dancing.
We know just what to take.
We know where all the money's hid.
So come on, give us a break.
Oh, you better watch out. You better not hide. If your doors are open, we're coming inside. Harry
And Marv
are coming to town.
I wanted to go back to that Harry and Marv are coming to town for a minute. There is some singing in this film. There's the choir. There's Old Man Marley. His granddaughter is singing and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's a little kooky. It's a little kooky to have these characters sing. It reminds me of Joe Pesci's early career. And I think maybe many of our viewers or our listeners may or may not know, but he started before he got hooked
into
up
the Scorsese films.
with Marty. He was a Jersey boy.
Yeah.
He was trying to embark on his own singing career. I think he had one record. And it was called Little Joe Sure Can Sing.
Yeah.
And it's
I think he spent some time performing with like Frankie Valli or something like that.
Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, my understanding is that he knew Frankie Valli, and he, in his own way, was sort of integral to the formation of the Four Seasons as they came to be known. And there's actually a scene in Jersey Boys, which you've surely never seen.
Is that a play?
It is. It's a musical play, but then it's also a film directed by Clint Eastwood.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Clint Eastwood directed that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
I guess that's not so dissimilar from Sidney Lumet directing The Wiz.
Okay, fair.
I mean, I haven't seen either, so I don't really know, but it feels kind of like that.
There is a character in Jersey Boys who is Joe Pesci. And I think he's going by Joey something or other. I don't seem to recall that they call him by name, but he is that character, and he introduces Frankie Valli and those guys to this other guy who becomes central to the Four Seasons.
So the character named Joey is based on Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as the story goes, Joe Pesci, who knew Frankie Valli and knew these guys and was also a singer, an aspiring singer in his own right. Yeah. He knew this guy. He found him. He was like, I know this vocal group and they're missing this piece.
Yeah.
You would be great for him. And he kind of goes out of his way to introduce him. And then, of course, Frankie Valli, Four Seasons, they blow up. Jersey Boys, the rest is history.
Man, that's fascinating. Like in another life. I'll have to check out Jersey Boys.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci was also in a band, and forgive me, I don't remember what they were called, but I believe, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I believe Joe Pesci, also an instrumentalist, played guitar for this band. And this same band, I don't think a band you really know by name. I don't know if they really did much of anything, or they were kind of like maybe more of an incubator for emerging artists.
Yeah.
But apparently this same band also briefly at one point featured Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
So in this weird way, Joe Pesci and Jimi Hendrix were in the same band, I think at different points.
So wait a second. Do you think Hey Joe is based on Joe Pesci?
Where are you going with that gun in your hand? You left this career in music, singing doo-wop, to go and shoot people on the silver screen.
Yep, for Martin Scorsese.
It's gotta be. The whole shoot my old lady thing was probably just creative license.
Do you like any musicals?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think the better question is, do you like any musicals?
There are a handful. I do like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
Does that count as a musical?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. And to put it even further, I like the songs in it. You know, like I actually enjoy the music in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. A Muppet Christmas Carol. You got some songs in that one.
Excellent.
Maybe sort of counts. Yeah. And then Sweeney Todd. And that's about it. I don't like Wizard of Oz. I don't like Singing in the Rain, Annie, Grease, Sound of Music, West Side Stories, Newsies. I don't want any of it.
That's not your thing.
No, not for me.
Yeah, I think the ones that you do like are great, though. So I'm pretty forgiving of musicals. I like a lot of musicals. I like bad musicals.
Yeah. I went to a midnight showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show, like the play.
Oh, that's just Rocky Horror Show.
What did I say? Rocky
that
Horror
you dropped the picture. The picture's the movie.
What am I?
Rocky Horror Show.
Maybe I'm thinking like Last Picture Show or something. Okay, so Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah.
I saw that as a play, midnight show.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. That was one of the worst experiences of my life because there's so much audience participation in that, and everyone who's going to see a midnight Rocky Horror Show is there because they love it. And if you're just being dragged along by a friend and you hate musicals,
you are sinking in your seat.
Oh my god. Like, and towards the end they sing Time Warp again and everyone's expected to like stand up and dance. I felt like I was back at Pentecostal church. Like, I do not want to be a part of this. Just let me sit down here and just be normal. Oh, you know, some other musicals that I don't mind, if you count them as musicals, are the Disney ones. I do
like the animated features.
Yeah, I do like Beauty and the Beast quite a bit, and I like the music from that movie.
What I'm hearing here actually is that you're selling yourself short. You say you hate musicals, but I think you're just selective about them.
Yeah, that could
it sounds
be
like there's a lot of musicals that you'll tolerate.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like the world without the music is a little too real, and then the music makes it seem weird, where it's like, wait, people don't break out in song.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? But if it's fantastical enough, I think, you know, you're talking Willy Wonka. It doesn't seem strange that Willy Wonka, this guy, would break out into song. You don't even really have to suspend your disbelief beyond what you've done for the world already.
Yeah, I'm like trying to figure out now that you mentioned that, I'm trying to figure out what it is about musicals that I generally dislike. I think what it is that when I dislike a musical, I strongly dislike it. Like Grease, Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain. Grease in particular, I hate that movie. I hate that play. None of the music appeals to me. I just don't like it. And that's generally how I feel about most musicals. If I don't like them, I really do not like them.
Have you seen Grease 2?
I haven't. Maybe that'll change my mind on it.
It might be time.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
And Rex Manning.
Ugh. I also hate Empire Records.
Not even a musical.
Yeah, I still hate it.
As soon as I get something on that old maniac, I'm calling the FBI and turning his ass in for the reward money. And you, if you don't get out of my room, I'm going to nail you to Marley's front door and ring the doorbell. Go! Microenius the guts of a butterfly.
So a lot of the deleted scenes in Home Alone come from the first night. So we've got like the opening, 15, 20 minutes where you get introduced to all of the characters.
Act 1.
Yeah.
The setup.
And I think like the first scene that you get from the deleted scenes is it's after Buzz has told the story about Old Man Marley. They're looking at him out there on the street, and he's looked in their directions, and they slam the curtains shut on Buzz's window. And the scene continues on from Buzz's perspective, where what is he? I think he says, like, once I got enough evidence, I'm going to report that guy to the FBI and collect the reward
money. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes on to terrorize Kevin just a little more.
And you
I'm gonna nail you to old man Marley's door and ring the doorbell.
Yeah.
Which then leads to Kevin leaving his
Right.
room because he finally got scared out.
Yeah. And then he says something about that. He calls him a micro weenie.
Yeah.
That micro weenie has no guts at all, or something. The guts of a butterfly.
That's what it is. Yeah. Which I don't know. It kind of feels like a traditional John Hughes line, like a John Hughes insult from a teenager.
It does. It kind of does. Yeah.
I think it just makes Buzz seem a little more of a bully. And I think they cut it largely because it just seemed like everyone's just being way too mean to Kevin. We've got enough in the theatrical cut.
Well, and it's a family comedy. We got to keep this we got to keep this runtime at an hour 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like that. We've established in the scene what we need to. There's nothing added.
Yeah.
There's nothing materially added with this extra minute in Buzz's room. Right.
No.
It just drags. We got to get on to the next room in here.
Well, and that actually leads directly into another deleted scene, which includes Frank.
Right.
Kevin is ejected from Buzz's room, and Frank is coming out of the bathroom upstairs at the same moment.
Yeah.
And what is he basically says, "Parlez-vous français, Kevin?"
No, he goes, squirt.
Yeah.
He calls him squirt.
Yeah, that's right. And again, my name's Kevin. He's like, "Oh, well, you know what the French are going to call you, huh?" And Kevin's like, "No, what?" And then Uncle Frank pantses Kevin and says, "Yank." He yanks his pants down, which is like, I don't know, it's just a creepy uncle. I'm just glad it's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Freaking weird.
Dude.
I don't want it.
Dude, not good.
No.
Not good. I get the pun, but yeah, that didn't need to make it.
I do get the sense that Frank speaks the best French out of all of the McAllisters. He's the only one in the movie.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. He's using his little bit of French. He's having fun with his French.
Yes.
He may teach French at the high school level.
Yeah. That's why they brought him along for free.
Right.
He wasn't going to be included in the trip initially, but he spoke French.
Here's your pocket translator.
One of the deleted scenes from Paris includes the twins. They're watching It's a Wonderful Life in French, and Brooke asks the twins if they know what's being said, and they're like, "No, I don't speak French.
We don't speak French."
Yeah.
Yeah, they're rich. They go to an international school. That Paris apartment, by the way, it's like full of Corinthian columns and stuff.
Yeah.
What is up with that apartment? I mean, it is opulent.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All the McAllisters are rich. All of them except Frank.
Right.
Yeah.
The McAllisters who live here.
Yeah.
So there's another one. There's another one with, and this is more extended stuff, but it's like Joe Pesci and the Pizza Boy.
Yeah.
And does this extended scene feel to you like it's improvised?
A lot of it does. I think Chris Columbus was maybe thinking, oh, well, Scorsese used Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro in his films, and a lot of Raging Bull and Casino. I think in particular, a lot of that's improvisation. I don't know, Goodfellas maybe not so much, but definitely Raging Bull. There's a lot of improvisation on Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro's part, and I think maybe he was trying to tap into that a little bit, but I don't know. I think Joe Pesci, when I watch the deleted scenes, I get the sense that Joe Pesci just kind of intimidated everyone on set.
I think so.
And they just like couldn't deliver their lines straight, and I think that's largely why a lot of those got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not super tight. Mm-hmm. There's this scene in particular, which I just find myself thinking, wow, this never had any purpose in this film, where Pesci's talking to the pizza boy and he's like, you know, you could get arrested for interrupting people, kid. And he's like, do you live around here?
Yeah.
Kid's like, yeah.
One of these big houses.
One of these big houses around here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should go and check yours out next. And then the pizza boy's like, I can show you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is meaningless.
You're a 30 minutes or less pizza delivery boy. You don't have time to show a cop your house. Like,
yeah.
I think they cut that scene largely because it makes it a little too obvious that Joe Pesci's up to no good.
Right.
Whereas before, you get a little bit of a hint that maybe he's not all he seems, but, you know, he still seems like he might be above board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that in the earlier scenes had to do with the pizza boy. You've got, he first shows up, and then there are the two kids there, Fuller and Brooke, and they're staring up at Joe Pesci. The pizza boy comes in, and he tries to, give the pizza to Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci's like, I don't live here. And then the pizza boy looks at Brooke and Fuller, and he says, you two dinks are my witnesses that I was here in 30 minutes or less.
Right. You two dinks.
Yeah, you two dinks. And then like another bit with the pizza boy that you get is when Peter comes down, and in the theatrical cut, the only interaction between Peter and the pizza boy is the pizza boy saying, oh, good, because somebody owes me $122.50.
Yeah.
In the deleted scene, you learn, Peter says, my wife has all the cash and she's upstairs and she'll be down in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then the scene commences with Harry and Peter, with Peter thinking he's going to get arrested or something.
Yeah.
They actually extend that too, because not only does he say, am I under arrest or something? He goes a step further. He's like, are you sure there's nothing wrong? Like maybe there should be something wrong.
He's like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? He's like,
I knew this day was gonna come.
Yeah, you haven't been in the garage, have you?
Not with the glue gun.
There is one that I don't want to sleep on this. Scene wise, line wise, it's totally throwaway, where Kevin's like, I forgot the 4 food groups. Yeah. It's the classic inside the fridge shot. Yeah. Right? We all know it. You've all seen it before. We get the camera inside the refrigerator. Kevin opens it up. It's refrigerator POV, right? And we've talked enough about product placement, the food that the McAllisters eat, the milk. And I think it's really worth pointing out. So I watched this one really close, and the things that I saw inside the fridge, trying to make sense of this, especially since they're about to go on vacation. Yeah. 1, still half a gallon of milk, a cardboard carton of milk. There's a 6-pack of Pepsi on top of a 6-pack of Diet Pepsi. There are 3 bottles of mustard. There's a French's yellow mustard, and then there are like 2 jars of maybe Grey Poupon or something like that. There's ketchup, there's mayo or Miracle Whip. It's a lot of condiments. Yeah. And then I think maybe there's Budweiser on the upper shelf. You can't see the whole thing, but it looks like cans of Bud.
I think Peter drinks.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
Kate probably drinks too. The Bud's probably Kate's.
Maybe. The one thing that I think really doesn't track, that I'm very confused about, is there is an unopened can of Spam in the refrigerator.
Do you keep Spam in the refrigerator?
Well, of course not. It's like the definition of shelf stable, right? I mean, it's like bomb shelter food. Yeah. And it's clearly unopened. Yeah. Why is there a can of Spam in the McAllister's refrigerator? What is going on in this kitchen?
That family does not eat Spam.
No way.
Yeah.
And there's the milk. There's something going on with the milk. I really feel like there was some quiet milk lobbying going on here. Make sure there's a lot of milk in this movie. Remind people that successful American families guzzle milk.
Because it's good for your bones.
So it is interesting to touch on these things because it is part of the world, and it is it is provided to us in like newer media formats, special edition, right? Extra scenes, bonus materials, whatever.
The filmmakers want you to have seen this stuff by this point, or at least they're open to the idea of you knowing about it.
Right. Then the question I think becomes, like you had asked up top, do they count? Mm-hmm. Are these scenes, we know that they exist, we can see them, but are they canon? Do they exist within the story? Can we take things away from things that characters say or do in these deleted scenes and help them round out our concept of the character?
Yeah, I think I have my own idea of what's considered canon in this world, and a lot of this applies to stuff that happens in the sequel as well, but particularly with the deleted scenes, some of them feel very much like, oh, let's just try this in the moment while we're filming this and see what happens. that doesn't feel like canon to me. What feels like canon to me are the scenes that were scripted by John Hughes. They shot and decided this doesn't work. I do feel like that's still, it tells you something about the characters, the fact that
from the storyteller's perspective, the mind that invented this world.
Yes, the fact that John Hughes had Uncle Frank Pants Kevin, and the fact that when Peter got down to the bottom of the steps and he says, "Oh, my wife has all the cash and she'll be down in a few moments."
There's so much to think about in that regard. We should really dive into that sometime.
Yeah.
We should really think more about how that paints the McAllisters and how they're operating in this world. But that's a conversation for another day.
All I want to say is that I think most deleted scenes deserve to have been deleted.
You think deleted scenes have been deleted for a reason?
They have.
Leave them on the cutting room floor.
You pay
and
an
then
editor.
Years later, serve them back up in a little clip on the bonus features of the disc that I can watch.
That's called recycling. Here's some trash from this film that you thought was just going to end up being nothing. But nope, people want to eat that stuff up a couple years down the line, put it on a special feature.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
And trash.
And then toss the rest away.
Yeah.
Broadcast live from our studio in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, The Long Road Home Alone is hosted by Jimmy Dantes and Joey Z, and produced by Pat Muldoon. Be sure to tune in next time. Don't forget your reading glasses, and keep the change, you filthy animals.